Hello, welcome back to the Imperfect PCOS podcast. Today, we are joined by a fellow registered dietitian, Katie Pekera, and she specializes in weight loss for busy professionals. So needed. Katie is passionate about helping women find a sustainable way to lose weight and keep it off for good without counting calories and ditching the all or nothing mindset. Katie focuses on insulin resistance and portion control methods so you can learn how to lose weight from anywhere. You're listening to the Imperfect PCOS podcast, where we share no BS science-backed strategies to put your PCOS into remission. I'm your host, Corey Ruth, aka the Women's Dietitian. Let's get into it. Welcome, Katie. I'm so happy to have you. Welcome, all the way from Rhode Island.
Yeah, on the other side of the pond here, here on the East Coast. But yeah, thanks for having me, Corey. I'm really excited to be here.
Yay, good. Do you work with women with PCOS, or do you work with men and women, or is it kind of mostly women? What's your typical
You
demographic?
know what? It was both, and I'll be honest,
Yeah.
it's mostly women now.
Okay.
And prior to starting my own practice 5 years ago at this point,
Mm-hmm.
I was in an endocrinology department. So I was doing a lot of
Oh,
PCOS, a lot of
cool.
diabetes, a lot of weight loss.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Kind of became my favorite area.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, same. I can totally relate. So tell us, I would love to start with learning a little bit more about your journey. How did you get into this field? Tell us kind of your background as far as getting into weight loss. And you just mentioned working kind of with some of that, in clinic, but how you got into this niche.
Yeah, it's not like a typical story, I think, for a lot of a lot of women who end up being dietitians for weight loss. But
Mm-hmm.
I always joke that growing up, I was the kid who was like, everyone was looking at the cartoons on the cereal box, and I was like looking at the nutrition facts on the cereal box. I was a competitive gymnast for a really long time, and
Wow.
we actually had a dietitian on staff who worked with us, and
Mm, okay.
she was a big, I just loved what she did. I thought it was so cool. And her kind of tweaks that she had made to suggestions on things like my snacks and my breakfast and lunches enhanced my sports performance a lot. And I thought that was
Wow.
so neat. I also
Mhm.
just grew up with a mom who loved cooking in the kitchen and always kind of brought me in. So
Love
I
it.
always a lot of interest in food. I majored in college in nutrition right away. I kind of always knew I
Mm,
wanted to be a dietitian. I
wow.
didn't necessarily know what field I wanted to go into. I just knew I
Mhm.
wanted to be in that field, or what specialty I should say.
Sure.
And I also minored in psychology in college. So I've
Oh,
always
perfect.
loved the relationship that people have with food.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it always seems like there's more people who have challenging relationships with food as opposed to super
Yes.
positive ones.
Right.
Obviously, as a nutritionist, I was around a lot of people with not great, relationship with food, myself
Right.
included, for a long time. So I got a couple of jobs post college in as a dietitian, and then the one I was just telling you about, my last
Mhm.
job before starting my practice in endocrinology. I just loved helping people feel more empowered with food choices,
Mhm.
and the weight loss one was one that I just felt really interested in because of the
Mhm.
psychology piece and how,
Yeah.
um, you think of these other areas where people can just cut out something like alcohol for the rest of their life if they
Right.
choose not to drink anymore. And when we feel like we have this push pull relationship with food, it's not something we can just cut out and stop
Yeah.
eating. It takes
Such a good
kind of
point.
figure it out. So I love this field. And I have not personally had to lose a lot of weight in the past. When I graduated college, I kind of very quickly gained 10 pounds as a dietitian, just in the
Mhm.
working world and trying to manage
Right.
my own schedule. And
Mhm.
so I had to figure out how to lose that. That was something I worked on and was able to do. And then I had my son Owen 14 months ago. I gained 40 pounds during
Mhm.
my pregnancy. And I just had to kind of figure out how to lose weight postpartum, but still have enough
Mm-hmm.
energy to run around with the baby. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of my newer place where I feel like I can identify a little bit, of feeling a little foreign in your own body, and
Oh, yeah.
just really passionate about helping people feel good in their own skin again.
I love that. I love that combination of, the psychology piece is so huge. I remember when I started, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give my clients a list of what to eat and they're gonna follow it and then they're gonna lose weight and it's gonna be perfect. And then
Yeah.
no, no, there's so much more involved than just do this, don't do that. And I also too want to say, there's so much about, I think I want to say backlash, about when it comes to weight loss. I want to say backlash, but that's not the right word. This negative connotation that weight loss has, especially in the dietetic community, and how it's always viewed as kind of like a negative thing. Like it's kind of like an icky, and you tell me your experience with this too, but it's kind of like an icky, like people think it's like slimy or icky to talk about. But honestly, dietitians, where we come in is where it is we help to bust all of the myths that others who aren't, qualified to educate on weight loss about. And, we're actually teaching how to do it in a way that is the right way, meaning it's non-restrictive. It's something that you can maintain long term. So, there's such a difference between weight, like how I'm trying to say this, it's Friday afternoon, but weight loss versus like weight loss. You know what I mean? Like there's just two different competing pieces, and one is the way that you go about it in your practice, the way that I go about it, and then there is the other side where people totally lump all weight loss dietitians into that big cloud, and they're
Right.
just so different. Have you experienced and felt that within our community or even outside of it?
Totally, totally. And it's I think it's tricky to navigate, but yeah, when I think you realize that you're helping people improve their relationship with food
Mm-hmm.
while seeing results that they're looking for that are sustainable. And listen,
Right.
sustainable weight loss, right? For a lot of us, it's what we're taught in school is it's like half a pound to 2 pounds per week. And
Right.
I think it's like everyone loses weight at different rates. That's not something I'm trying to
Right.
force on clients, but I
Right.
think a lot of people come in, I think by the time, I don't know if this is true for you, Corey, but by the time someone works with me, they've tried like 7 different things
Yes.
more. And
Yeah.
they may have done a program where they lost a lot of weight in a really short
Yeah.
amount of time. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like, well, that's not really how I would measure success. If you hated
Mm.
that diet, if you regained that weight back, if you had
Right.
no social life in the meantime, like, and so for me, it's like, how can we help you see the results you're looking for, but still live your life? And for my typical client, they're busy professionals. They don't want to be counting calories every time. They don't want to be following this rigid meal plan, or they can't because they're traveling a lot and they really
Right.
like to be able to know how to eat at a restaurant, on an airplane,
Yes.
at Airbnb, all those things. But
Right.
yeah, I think that weight loss has a bad rap, but I am a big believer in moderate weight loss can not only, improve confidence, but it really can improve like health markers, and it
Mhm.
can be good for blood work and blood pressure and blood sugar
Yeah.
management and those types of things. So I kind of want to like give it a better name again.
Yes, I'm right there with you. I always talk about that. I love to talk about that. Yeah. And so you mentioned, busy professionals, busy women that you're working with. Why is it harder? I mean, what are some moving parts within working, in this type where in this community of women that are traveling that do have, demanding jobs? What are some pieces that are, that you would say are specific to that weight loss journey?
Mhm.
Why is it harder for them? Obviously the time constraint, comes to mind, but why do we gain more weight? And I say we because I totally lump myself into that, having two kids under 4 and working full time. And my fiance is a firefighter, so he's gone for 2 weeks at a time all summer. So
Yep.
it, busy is such a we wear it as a badge of honor, sometimes, but it really can be prohibitive when we're talking about weight loss.
We had this topic in my group call this week talking about
Yeah.
trying to not be psyched about. I think as women too, we kind of get together and celebrate the women in
Yeah.
who have like slept the least, eaten the least, but accomplished the most on their to-do list. And like I'm always
Yes.
trying to redo that of like, how about like celebrating the people who slept, 8 hours,
Yeah,
ate 3 meals today, and got some stuff done, but didn't like lose their mind in the process.
that's great.
Um,
I want to be
I,
here.
I think what makes it hard for busy professionals, especially because we're talking mostly busy women, and that obviously includes moms. And now that I'm a mom, I understand that
Hmm.
a lot more than I did a
Hmm.
year ago.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so time constraint is huge. I think the types of jobs that my clients have, they tend to be out a lot, socializing as part of their.
Mm.
So whether they
Oh,
have to bring
okay.
clients like
Right.
out to eat, and
Yes.
happy hour is a really big part of that. And so
Sure.
um, I even had a client recently who comes to mind who she's in a very like male dominated profession. And this was really
Okay.
interesting because she was like, I don't feel comfortable ordering what I really want to eat at a restaurant because all the guys are
Oh.
getting like the burgers and the wings. And I kind of feel like I have to be one of the guys. And
Yeah, and they're losing weight in the process. And
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
um,
so that's so interesting to me of like,
yes,
you are already like so high up in your field, but you're intimidated to order what you want to eat at a
yes.
restaurant because you don't want to be judged by the guys you're with,
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
so I think that's where sometimes these like I don't count calories with my clients, but where those extra calories like just come in,
Yes.
they're out doing work related things.
Okay.
Um, I also think movement just goes down for a lot of busy professionals, over
Yes.
the years where in our 20s, we're just more active. We have more time to go to the fitness classes, to get the
Hmm.
walks in, and you had kids in a 40-hour work week into it. And we're just not moving enough. And that's where I think managing our weight becomes a lot harder. And I
Okay.
also think, which I think you talk a lot about, right? Like insulin resistance or PCOS or
Mm-hmm.
PCOS being a form of insulin resistance. It's like
Hmm.
as we age, that happens, and you're
Yes.
kind of tapping into that over the age of 40, but often for a lot of
Right.
people, it starts in their 30s.
Hmm.
So it just
Totally.
makes gaining weight easier,
Got it.
unfortunately.
Totally. Yes. All of those make perfect sense. Thank you for shedding light on those. And I can't wait to learn more about how you work with women like this because I know it's so needed. Talk to us about alcohol and carbohydrates. There's so many things that when we're talking about weight loss, if you go scroll on social media on Instagram, you'll see all these videos pop up, these beautifully curated videos. The 10 things I did to lose, the weight, and it's like, stop, cut out all alcohol, or like stop or eliminated sugar, or these extreme things. And talk to us about like those. Like, what are your thoughts on having those and still working on weight loss? I'd love to know kind of your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it honestly can vary a little bit, like person to person too.
Sure.
But I do think you have to have some things in your week that you enjoy. And if alcohol is one of those,
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my clients, like, I'm not going to take it away from you. Like, that's not
Yeah.
going to be an option for you. But it is probably something we have to cut back on a little bit.
Right.
I have, I
Mm-hmm.
won't go into like my whole method, but I kind of have like these discretionary, like, here's a certain amount of calories every day. And this is the only part of the calorie piece that we do in my
Right.
program that you can kind of do whatever you want with every day. And so
Yeah.
that is like that glass of wine that you really want, like go for it.
Mm-hmm.
If someone doesn't drink and it's more like a sweet, like or chocolate or something, then that's where they're
Right.
going to use it.
Cool.
But I always want it to feel sustainable, or people like
Mm-hmm.
won't stick to it long term. Am I answering
Right.
your question? I don't know if that's
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Totally. Definitely. I love that you have that in in your method because I do think, yeah, it can be hard when we completely eliminate certain things and expect ourselves to do it forever because it's just
And
like an unrealistic expectation.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
also think too, it's like so many people isolate this one thing, right? They're like, well, how many drinks of alcohol can I have per day? Or like the carb
Oh,
or something
yeah.
else. And it's like, well, what's the rest of your day looking like? Right?
Yeah.
Because cutting out one food group isn't necessarily going to translate to weight loss or whatever goals
Right.
you're looking for if like everything else in your day is in up to par, or you're not eating enough of the other food groups. And that's kind of
Right.
where I think some people, I was just talking to a client today actually about this, where it's like eating healthy and eating for weight loss are two different things. So, you have to kind of just
Interesting.
be aware that just because you're eating healthy doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be enough to see weight loss results that you're looking
Mind
for.
blown. I feel like so many people conflate the two. Like they mush
Yeah,
them together. Like, oh, I'm going to snack on, 1 cup of cashews. Why am I not losing weight? Well, dang, like, yeah. Okay. That's such a great way to put it. So, yeah, if somebody was, they woke up, they had breakfast, they had, eggs with avocado, they had a chicken salad for lunch, they had salmon, potatoes, broccoli for dinner, and then they had a glass of red wine, roughly what, like 125 calories, or they had like a Yasso ice cream bar, about 100 calories. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't lose weight if they were following, it's
exactly.
not that black and white. Like I love that you can, still have these things in a way that makes sense for your goals and like within a context, right? Like within the context of everything else for the day. That's such an important piece, I think, to have when we're, kind of struggling, grasping at straws, trying to figure out how do I actually get to my weight loss goal? How do I do it? That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know about you, but I always get people be like, well, I'll just cut out dairy. Like, why didn't I lose weight? And it's like, well, you
yeah,
eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, there's
right.
more to it than just dairy or alcohol. Yeah.
Right? I know. Well, instead of 1 tablespoon of my shredded cheese with my egg, I had a whole avocado or something, it matters. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. PCOS is complex and multifaceted. What we know about it, including how best to treat it, is constantly changing. That's why I've dedicated my life's work to helping women put their PCOS into remission. Inside my signature program, the PCOS Boss Academy, women lose weight permanently without restriction and master their most stubborn PCOS symptoms. If you're looking to get pregnant or want to be a mom in the future, my ultra successful Get Pregnant with PCOS program supports moms to be every step of the way in conquering PCOS symptoms and bringing home the baby of their dreams. Plus, there's an additional weight loss mode to check into. These are all of the science-backed nutrition and lifestyle tweaks you need to improve your PCOS and change your life from a qualified healthcare provider and leading PCOS expert in the field. Ultimately, we are in control of our PCOS, and I would love to work with you inside one of my upcoming programs so you can step into the best version of yourself and start feeling like you again.
Okay, so this mindset piece is so huge. And even, like I said, even something I didn't even realize when I became a dietitian and opened my doors to my private practice, I
Mhm.
didn't realize how connected the two are. Our mindset, weight loss psychology, and actually losing weight. What are a couple things that come to mind when you think about this connection? I mean, you've studied this extensively, you integrate this into your practice. What comes to mind? Like what are some things that people struggle with here and how do you work with them on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you think of my typical client being a busy professional and or
Yeah.
mom. And I think with the mindset piece, so many people have this idea with weight loss, or even if weight loss isn't the thing, if it's just trying to eat, better, change your eating habits, that they just need more motivation or more willpower, right? And
Right.
you don't. Like, if you're
Mm.
relying on more motivation, it's just going to be, it's such a finicky thing. Like, you have no idea how much motivation you're going to have tomorrow. You have no idea how much you're going to have in an hour from now.
So
And we
true.
can't like order more of it on Amazon when the motivation is low, right? And so, um, one thing I've learned in psychology areas, it's like willpower is directly related to decision fatigue. So, the more decisions you
Mm.
the less willpower you have. And so
Mm.
when you think about that from a
Mm.
food perspective, right, most
See
people
it.
don't feel like they blow it at breakfast. They feel like they make a pretty good breakfast. And then lunch can be like a little more iffy. Like, did you have lunch planned ahead of time, what you were going to do? What
Okay.
kind of a morning did you end up having? If it was a
Uh,
crappy, stressful morning,
Shit show or calm? Which
yeah.
one? Okay.
Lunch can be a little more dicey. And then for
Yep.
most people, I think for most busy professionals, dinner is the like real kind of like game over. I'm exhausted. I don't want to think
Mm,
about it. And that's where we end up like ordering, not even because we're dying to order, like we just can't bear the thought of cooking or figuring out or having to run to the
dishes.
grocery store. So I always kind of tell clients to like think about their day and when is your willpower with food the lowest. And let's just give an example of me. It's like if 3 p.m. is my hard time of day, or like
Mm,
Katie, like history shows Katie at 3 p.m. never makes a good food decision.
mm-hmm.
Even though I'm a dietitian, even though I know better, I
Right.
can stop pretending that like I'm going to magically do better at 3 tomorrow. And what I suggest is like, if you know 3 is your hard time of day, then at 7 a.m. decide what your 3 p.m. snack is going to be, right?
Love it.
And if you are someone who needs choice and variety, then give yourself 2 options at 7 a.m. And then at 3 p.m. you pick between option A, option B, as opposed to like
Mm-hmm.
opening the cabinets in the fridge and kind of looking through everything. And,
Mm-hmm. Being
uh,
this
and so
search.
if it's not mid-afternoon for you, if it's nighttime, if it's after the kids go to bed, just planning ahead for that time of day is
Mm-hmm.
so, so helpful with the mindset piece for staying on track.
So good. So good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think just that extra planning is can make or break, and it's like, oh God, one more thing to think about. But we have to put in some effort when it comes to weight loss. It doesn't have to take over our world, but we do have to think about it a little bit. We do have to plan a little bit, and it's worth it. It's worth it to do that
Yeah.
and reach your goals.
And I think I think most people reach for the same things more often, and maybe not the exact same thing every day, but you probably
Mm-hmm.
are already going for 1 to 3 options most of the time at that time. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we're just tweaking the
Mm-hmm.
options and planning ahead. And it might feel like a lot of shifting and changing initially, but down the road, I think it just becomes more second nature of doing it that way.
So true. Yeah, just knowing I think like you said, like your time triggers, when you're feeling the most vulnerable to making a decision that goes against what your goal is, I shouldn't say goes against, but isn't actively working towards what that goal is.
Agree with it.
Identifying those triggers, oh my gosh, that's just empowering. I feel like just to know that oh, okay, like the time of day when I am most vulnerable to, doing XYZ is this. Here's my plan for that time. That's so empowering rather than just having it like, swirling around in your brain, like, I'll do better, I'll do better, I'll do better tomorrow. Yeah,
Mhm.
so relatable. So, what about snacking? Like, there's so much talk about fasting and intermittent fasting, and all, there's tons on the good old social media. But what about snacking? Is snacking something that you recommend, or like how do you work with clients to do that or not?
Yeah, so all of my clients have such different schedules. Like
Right.
I have some clients who are nurses who do like the overnight shift, right? And
Oh
so
yeah.
I never am going to tell somebody like, you have to stop eating by this time of day. You have to
Mm,
stop eating by this time of day. I mean, I have clients who wake up at 5 a.m. I have clients who don't wake up until 10 a.m. So
right.
I am more of the belief of like, I really suggest that from whenever you start eating your first meal of the day, whenever that is, that feels good for
Mhm,
you, to
mhm.
aim to eat every 3 to 5 hours after that until you're done eating.
Okay.
So if
Cool.
that happens to be another main meal,
Mm,
great. If it, for most people, I think if you're having lunch around 12 and most busy professionals aren't having dinner until 6, 7 o'clock, that's like a 6 hour time span of no
right.
food. I would suggest like plugging an afternoon snack in.
Okay.
I kind of feel that, 3 hours for the most part, a meal should keep you full for that long. If it,
Yeah.
then I don't think you had enough food at that meal. And I
Agreed.
find for most people that once we pass that 5 hour mark, um, we tend to get to that like hangry spot of like, what would have filled you up then isn't going to anymore, or you're just going to be so hungry that you just don't make a great food choice. And I think that's
Yes.
something that I have to work with my clients on a lot because they're so
Yes.
busy with work during the day.
Mm.
They really do have a tendency to either just skip meals or forget about snacks. And then they get to 6 p.m. and they want to like eat everything in sight. So it's kind of like trying to eat less at that time, but pulling that food like into earlier pockets of the day. And sometimes I have to tell people like put an alarm on your phone to remind you
Yes.
to have a snack because you're probably not going to think to do it.
Yes, it's so true. Yeah. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, well, how does eating more throughout the day, how will that help with the weight loss? It's like, well, let me explain. When
Mhm.
you get to that hangry point, you literally lose the ability to decide to make better choices. You do. I mean, what's guiding you is not so much your brain, but is, your hunger, and
Right.
you're just going to fill that void because that's what's biologically right, like what we're supposed to do is to eat. At that point, we're not going to say, I want this because I know it's great for my body, it has fiber, healthy fats, and protein. No, you're just gonna, eat whatever's there, and not think twice about it. And I've totally experienced that myself.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, I love that. And I think incorporating in, yeah, those regular meal and snack times is one of the ways that you can set yourself up for success, and avoiding that like after work, just like total binge fest. I've been there too. Um,
Same, same.
yeah, totally. Let's talk about overeating. I want to talk about this because,
Mm.
I wonder if you, and this is a separate specialty, but work with clients who struggle with binge eating. I know, that's a whole separate thing, so it's okay if no, but I'm just curious first before we like dive in. I want to know, what your practice is there.
If I work with clients with that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I'm not going to say it's necessarily like my specialty. I know that,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that, but I think so many people coming in with not the best relationship with food, paired with wanting to lose weight, often struggle with some level of overeating,
Mm-hmm.
tied in with emotional eating, which I guess could be categorized as binge eating.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Got it.
but yes, I definitely do work with people who struggle with that. And I have
Okay.
struggled with that in the past too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know it's also women with PCOS are very vulnerable to that. So it definitely comes up a lot in my own practice.
Yeah.
How do you navigate, you know, an instance where you go into that overeating period, and then you feel, like, okay, now time to restrict, and it's that cycle. What's like one way that you work with clients to get them out of that mode?
There's so many ways, but I think one that we kind of already touched on is
Yeah.
really looking at, you know, regularly scheduled
Mm,
meals throughout the day because binge eating is more likely to occur if
yeah.
you've gone, a long time without eating. I know that's
Right.
certainly not the only reason why it happens, but
Well, sure.
really having regularly scheduled meals and snacks can really help, I think, with that. So
Yes,
that would
totally.
be one piece, but I think, how do I want to say this? It's sort of, part of it is recognizing that why you're doing that, right? And
Right.
the case is kind of different. But for a lot of people, it is sort of this form of self-care of like, it makes me feel better when I do that. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is it's a very short shelf life, right? It makes you feel better for a
Right.
few minutes or, a
Right.
very short amount of time. So I'm always trying to help them identify like what was the main emotion that came up around that? What was the
Mm-hmm.
main trigger there? Was it an internal,
Mm-hmm.
feeling? Was it an external situation that happened? And what are some other
Right.
things that we can put in place the next
Mm-hmm.
time you have a similar emotion because you're human and you're going to. And like a real simple one, and let's like make it not necessarily binge, but let's just say someone's eating, I don't know, it's not always a negative emotion. Like what
Right.
if like I want a
Oh
reward?
yeah,
Like I
totally.
got through the day, or
Yeah.
I want to celebrate something.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll kind of suggest is like put a timer on for 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
when you kind of notice I'm having that pull to eat something that has nothing to do with like hunger right now,
Mm-hmm.
and commit to doing something else for 10 minutes. Don't
Mm-hmm.
sit there, but do something else actively for 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes that also feels like a reward, or maybe
Mm.
reward wasn't the best analogy there, but
Yeah, that also feels good. Yeah.
yeah, so you're not ignoring or denying the feeling. You're still tapping
Right.
into it, but you're trying to tap into it with something other than food. And what's
Right.
really cool is the research shows even waiting 10 minutes, even if you eat after those 10 minutes, oftentimes like what you end up eating and the amount that you end up eating
Mm.
significantly change.
Really
You end up
interesting.
making a better choice, and you end up likely eating a smaller portion just by hitting the pause button. And I think so
Wow.
many people,
Hmm.
like when I was in the height of like eating for emotions for myself, like the thought of trying to get through the rest of the day without doing that feels impossible. But
Right.
the thought of like, I can make it 10 minutes. Like I can go take a shower, I can go fold laundry, I can call a
Mhm.
friend, I can paint my nails.
Right.
And then you like survive those 10 minutes. And sometimes it's like, that was a tough wave. It passed. I don't need
Hmm.
to eat anymore. I feel fine. And sometimes you're like,
Right.
no, I definitely still want to eat. And even if you eat, you just make a better choice. So we're just trying to like
Mm.
press pause, like on those.
Yeah.
I'm stressed, I'm going to eat. I'm sad, I'm going to eat. I want a reward, I'm going to eat. Like you're just trying to
Right.
kind of build a little bit of space between feeling and eating.
That's so powerful. That's such a good tool. And I love the timer piece. It sounds nerdy and I love it. I love it. I think
Binge
it's so
watch.
helpful. Yes. Yeah. I'm like, okay, let me get out my credit card and online shop for 10 minutes. That'll light up my brain.
Yeah.
You got to pick what works for
A
you,
deeper
right?
one is that hits that dopamine is music
Ah, yeah.
and meaningful photos. So photos of family, loved ones,
Yes.
vacations, pets.
Oh,
And
cool.
what's great is you have access to music and photos like on your phone all the time. So
That's
that can be
true.
part of your 10 minutes.
That's so true. I love that. Totally. Mm. Powerful and so helpful. What about some weight loss myths? What are like a few that come to mind that you have to fight against
Mm.
commonly?
Well, it's not necessarily like a myth, but I think so many people I work with come in and they're very type A,
Mm-hmm.
very driven. And it's often this all or nothing
Mm-hmm.
mindset. Like they're either 100% in or they are 100% out. And
Mm-hmm.
that just is not gonna work with food. Like you cannot be 100% in all the time. And I think what's
Right.
really relieving about that is you don't have to be. Like you
Right.
can still see results without being perfect.
Mhm.
Um, so I think a lot of people have that mentality of, well, I messed up, I screwed up, I ate more than I should have at lunch today. So the day's a wash. So I'm just going to keep going. And God forbid that happens on a Friday. So, well, I'll start again on Monday. So now it's 3 days of eating like that,
Mm-hmm.
or well, it's the end of the month. So I'm just going to wait till the start of the next month to really get back on this. And that's,
Mm.
I think people,
Last
it's
supper
like,
mentality.
yeah. And it's like, if you just left that one meal that didn't go as great as you wanted to, like at that, and you got back on track at your next meal, it truly
Yes.
would have been no harm done. Like
Yes.
so many people are so hard on themselves. And I have seen people
Yes.
gain 50 pounds after an episode like that because they just never forgave
Right.
themselves for that one thing. So I think
Mm.
that would be like
So
one
good.
one, but I think, more common ones that kind of drive me nuts. Not so much the intermittent fasting, but so many people have been told by like, I was a fitness instructor for forever, so it's no shade on trainers or anything, but like, oh, my trainer said I can't eat past 6 p.m. or like,
Yes.
and it's like, oh my God, your metabolism does not shut off at 6
Yeah.
p.m. Like your metabolism
Yes.
doesn't know what time of day it is. Like it's not that you're making fat from having dinner at 8 p.m. It's that
Right.
I think for a lot of people that nighttime eating is often like unnecessary foods that you're reaching for, or like snacky foods while watching TV.
Yes.
But it's not
Yes.
that it's because you ate that past a certain time of day.
Right. Right.
You get that a lot?
Oh yeah. Well, and I think about actually, I was talking to my best friend. It was well, no, the last time I saw her. And, she was talking to me about how she had created this, kind of rule to stop eating after 7. And of course, my brain goes to that, like, well, you don't really need to do that. But then she said, well, that's when I do my like mindless, that's when I do my
Yes.
eating, my mindless eating. And so actually giving myself that limit was helpful. But yes, it's for the reason of, and who knows how sustainable that is in the long run. I don't know. But yeah, so it was like helpful in one sense, but not because of the reason that we all think, which is like, yeah, anything we eat past 6, whatever, 7, 8 p.m. is just gonna go like straight to our waist. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. So and I totally agree with what your friend is saying. Like, I think for some people to
Yeah,
have that stop time
right.
keeps them from like boredom going into the kitchen
Right.
or whatever. But
Yes.
if she got stuck at work and didn't get home until 7:30, like, I
Mm.
would never tell her, well, can't eat
Yeah.
this because you
Right.
missed 7 p.m. cutoff, right? So that's kind
Yes.
of more what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The shop is closed.
yes. And I
Yes.
think you said 3, the third one that drives me crazy. What would that be?
I can think of one that I get a lot.
But
Um, Wanting to work on weight loss on one part of your body.
oh, like spot.
So yeah, yeah. And this working in fitness too. Like how do I just lose weight in my arms? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
yeah.
doesn't work. Or
Mhm.
bicep curls. No, it's not that.
Yeah, right. I know.
Right? You can't
Yes.
pinpoint weight loss to one specific
Damn
area.
it. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be nice?
It would. It would.
Maybe AI will have that feature for us in the future. Yeah, and I'm thinking back to my own weight loss journey, and it's been a journey, but I had to learn to love vegetables. And it
Mhm.
sounds so simple, but I was somebody who never ate a vegetable until my 20s because I was such a picky eater when I was younger. I remember like my mom making like steamed, and God bless her soul, she's a single mom, she's an attorney, so she was working all the time,
Yeah.
trying to raise us on her own. And she put cheese on steamed broccoli just to like cover up the taste. And even then I would like slip it to the dog under the table. And I really thought that I hated all vegetables. They were just all gross. And once I started to realize, no, there's different methods of cooking them. There's different spices and seasonings and sauces and, ways to like make them sexier. It changed the game for me, but I also had to commit to liking them because
Mhm.
they're such an important part of just obviously healthy eating, but volume eating, which is something that sometimes I fall back on sometimes, or just being able to get in that fiber that's more filling.
Yep.
All those antioxidants, obviously, for my hormones and my PCOS, but that was a game changer for me. And there's just so many adult women walking around who have that same mentality, and don't blame them at all because yeah, I've totally been there. But I think that could be one shift, that could be so helpful, is teaching women how to fall in love, or at least in like with vegetables, because they can be so powerful. There's such a tool when it comes to weight loss that you can maintain.
Yep.
Yeah, I've just shared that. Just wanted to share that personally, if that resonates with anybody listening. Like vegetables and not my fave.
Yeah,
um,
and I think too, I have a pretty, in my group, I ask for a lot of vegetables, on a daily basis. And a
yeah,
lot of people don't come in eating that many vegetables. And it's like,
no,
okay, well, you don't have to be there by tomorrow or by the end of the week, but like, let's work on adding,
yeah,
them in a week that feels doable to you. But
yes,
I really do see weight loss happen more efficiently when people are eating more vegetables, even if like everything else across the board looks the same person to person. The person who's eating, 4 or 5 servings of vegetables in a day seems to be losing weight more efficiently too, which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And again, so many ways to make them, to zhuzh them up. Awesome. Oh my gosh, we've covered some great stuff. I'm so glad that we got to connect today. Tell listeners how they can find you. Where do you like website, social media, and how you work with clients, how somebody can work with you if they really want to dive into weight loss.
Yeah, that's super sweet. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at the Weight Loss Nutritionist. My website also is theweightlossnutritionist.com. My main kind of way of working with clients right now is I have a 3-month small group coaching program for busy professionals. So we have kind of 3 major components to that. One is that we have a weekly group Zoom call together. The groups typically have 12 to 15 people, so they're small and intimate. It's not like getting on a Zoom call with 100 people. And there's a Slack channel, so there's daily support in there, and then like online modules and things to look at. But that's like my favorite way to work with people, because you're in a group with like-minded people who have the same goals as you, navigating like, all the challenges of that, of, the work dinners or the family weekend away. Like, how do I stay on track while we're, eating out at every major meal? So we talk a lot about nutrition, but a lot about all of those like lifestyle components that impact not only losing weight, but keeping it off long term. And like we started today's discussion with, just the whole psychology around that and how to improve your relationship with food. Because I think that has seemed, like we were talking about that weight loss piece at the beginning, where it's like you either lose weight or you improve your relationship with food. And I kind of, I try to work on both of those things. I don't think you have to pick one or the other there.
I love that. So good. So good. And so true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Corey. It was super nice to chat with you.